Hey guys, today I wanted to look at the playability of ZAFT with the new GD03 cards being released. This is my favorite archetype, believe it or not, and I started out as a ZAFT player, which transitioned into red-white, given some of the issues with ZAFT currently, which we'll start with. So the issues currently with ZAFT is you need multiple cards to reach that 5 or more AP to activate additional effects, which we'll get into here soon. For example, a base and or Buster Gundam are required to boost the Duel and Legao to get their effects off. And then the bigger for me is none of the three current ZAF pilots are able to get units to plus 5 AP. A workaround I utilized was inserting Kira in the white color package to kind of help offset that. For example, which we'll get into, you could smack Kira into a dual Gundam, which obviously isn't a link, but then you get the plus 5 AP to get breach, and then you can also minus 2 AP something, which kind of helps it stick around longer. And then additionally, the Buster Gundam requiring a coordinator pilot to restand uh, is pretty brutal because it has a +1, it has a 1 AP to start with. So if you don't, or if you aren't able to restand it, it's kind of an easy target on your opponent's turn. They can pretty much trade into this unit for free and then still have you deal with their other unit. There are some decks too that can attack active units. Like for example, Green White can use their Wing Gundam to just smack into the Buster Gundam here and trade it for free basically and breaching 5. And then there also is no true boss unit for the deck currently. The Justice Gundam is technically a triple ship alliance unit, thus it's excluded from other ZAF perks such as the first strike ability from the Blitz Gundam or getting breach from the Gamal base. And then also finally the dual Gundam Assault Shroud is not as consistent as people originally thought, and you kind of need a pilot to activate that effect. So we'll get into the current ZAF cards. Let's start with the pilots. Obviously, I think everyone agrees that Atherin Zala is pretty good, given +1 AP, +2 HP. But more importantly, like when linked, you can swing it to an active unit that's level 5 or lower as his attack target. That's pretty strong, especially with its units that we'll get into. Um, Isaac once per turn when an enemy link unit is destroyed with damage while this unit is attacking, draw one. That's pretty good, especially any effect that lets you draw one's pretty good here. And then Dirka, when linked, discard one if you do draw one. I'm on the fence about this one. Sometimes, I may only have one or two cards in hand and I kind of need both, and I don't want to discard one to draw one, which potentially won't actually help me. And then for the lower units, uh, they're pretty much solid except for the Xeno, I believe, or Xeno, however you pronounce that. It's during your turn while this unit is battling an enemy unit that is level 2 or lower, it gains first strike. So it's kind of like a trade into one unit, and then your opponent has to deal with it or play a unit that's level 3 or higher. You could get some interesting quirky things in here if you're able to get this plus 5 AP, and then on the Gamal give it breach. And then into the bases, the Gamal. The main thing with this one is choose one friendly ZAF unit with 5 or more AP. It gains breach 3 during this turn. That's pretty strong, but again, it takes multiple cards in the current state to kind of get most units to plus 5 AP. The Vesalius, this card sees play in all kind of red decks for the most part. For the most, just the fact that it gives something +1 AP is pretty strong. And then the Desert Tiger, choose one friendly ZAF unit. It gets plus 3 AP during this term. And in theory, you're like, this solves all the issues. But the main problem with this card is one, as a command pilot, it's only +1 AP, 0 health, which is not the greatest. And then also, it's not a burst. So, if you run 4 copies and 2 or 1 of your copies is in your shields, it's pretty much a negative from there. And there's no way you can get that back currently with the way these decks are structured. And then here's kind of the bread and butter of the package, which is the dual Gundam. While this unit has 5 or more AP, it gains breach 3. Overall, pretty strong. We know breach is pretty strong. Legao, if this unit has 5 or more AP and is attacking an enemy unit, choose one enemy unit, deal 2 damage to it. This is pretty good too. Lets you get some ping off, especially these two units are ZAF trait linked, so you could throw Atherin into here, give it 5 or more AP, and then swing it to an active unit if there's nothing rested for you to attack. And then the Bakio is just a support too. It's pretty strong, especially with it having 3 health. It lets some of those weenies on your opponent's side not be able to trade into it as easily. And then here going into some of the first LR, here's Buster Gundam, activate main support 3, really, really strong. And then during pair coordinator pilot, which is kind of interesting here because theoretically you could stick Kira under this and then restand it. When you use this unit support to increase the ZAF unit's AP, set this unit as active, basically just restand it. The Blitz, choose one of your units with 5 or more AP. It gains first strike during the turn. And then here's that Dual Gundam Assault Shroud. When paired, look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You may deploy one ZAFT unit card that is level 4 or lower among them. Return the remaining cards randomly to the bottom of your deck. And then to round it off, these are Atherin's units. The Aegis Gundam MA mode, Breach 3, overall really strong, especially with having 4 health, especially, you link this with Atherin, it turns into a 4/6. And then the other Aegis Gundam attack, if this unit has 5 or more AP, choose one enemy unit that is level 5 or higher, deal 3 damage to it. This deck sees a little more play now because I feel like the majority of people aren't playing aggro, so there's a lot more level 5 units out there. But in an aggro matchup, this is just you're just linking this to kind of attack an active unit, and that's pretty much it. And then the GD03 cards that help ZAFT that are being introduced, one is Providence Gundam. This one, during pair ZAFT pilot, during your turn, all your ZAFT units get +2 AP. That's really strong. That kind of helps unlock some of these +5 AP abilities. And then attack, choose one enemy unit, deal 1 damage to it for each 4 AP this unit has. Again, there's a lot of support cards in this deck. So you could potentially get this thing really, really up there and, potentially kill a level, a 4 or 5 HP unit without having to swing into it. This commander type, activate main, support 1, really, just a support unit that's pretty strong. But the other effect is what gets it kind of going, is during your turn, when this unit is rested by an effect, choose one of your ZAF units. It gets +2 AP for the turn. So essentially it's a +3 AP, or you could spread it around and do +1 and +2. But then the main thing here is that it has 4 attack and 3 health. So even if you don't, you can't really restand this unit, but if your enemy wants to, your opponent wants to deal with this card, they're most likely trading, which is really, really good. And then obviously the new pilot, the main guy here, Raul Le Creuset, win link, choose one ZAP base card from your trash, add it to your hand. That's pretty good here because you can easily recycle your Gamaus and your Vesalius or the new base that they've added to just keep being able to play those back out. Either if you're running low on shields, or you need it to kind of give something else breach or get +1 AP. So either the Providence to boost it up for more damage, or one of the other units to unlock that +5 or AP effect. And then this Dual Gundam Assault Shroud, when I first saw this card, I didn't think it was that good. It's while this unit has 5 or more AP, it may choose an active enemy unit that is level 5 or lower as its attack target. The more I think about it, the more I think this is pretty strong, because now, we have a lot of these effects that can, we have another support unit that can get it to +5 AP, or you can put the Raul Crusade under it if you have to. It wouldn't be a link, but still. And then you tie that into potentially with the Gamao. You could get attack into something active, kill it, and then get breach on top of that. Is pretty strong. Warped Intent, not actually designated a ZAF card, but this is from the same series. Main or action during this turn, all units paired with a pilot get +2 AP. This kind of helps iron out some of the wrinkles with Atherin only being +1 AP or the other ZAP pilots. And then the main thing here is it has a burst of adding it to your hand. So you could run 4 copies with this, and worst case, if it's in your shield, you get it back to your hand. And then the new ZAF base, deploy, add one of your shields to your hand, then choose one friendly ZAF unit. It gets +3 AP during this turn. Again, this kind of wrinkles out the fact of needing some of these support units on the field already to kind of get these extra effects going. Only major kicker here is that it's a level 6, which is pretty late in the game, I feel like, especially if we get into more of a mid-range. But if we get into more mid-range and blockers and longer game, then it's not the end of the world. But I feel like aggro will always have a place in this game. So if you run into that aggro matchup, you're kind of dead if you just only run this base. So this is just another highlight of what these GD03 cards do to fix ZAFT, which having a +2 AP pilot helps unlock these +5 AP ZAFT unit effects a lot easier. And then also it just hit when linked. There's a lot of ZAFT traded linked units in this deck, and being able to just recycle bases is just so important. It's so good. I feel like I don't think there is a card currently that does that. And then also just another support unit with 4 AP is just really good. I mean, you're not really as worried of not having a Buster Gundam that's just rested with 1 AP, being able to just get smacked into for free basically. Warped Intent, again, another utilization that just helps you get units +5 AP a lot easier. And then Providence Gundam is a true boss unit for ZAFT, which is really good. And again, it also gives when paired plus AP to all your ZAF units, which again, it's trying to fix that you need multiple cards to kind of be rested. You need the support or you need command cards. This just SmackDown gives everything plus AP, so you can potentially you can swing a Buster now because it has that has more AP than one. You know, it could trade into a unit, or even one is enough to do a damage to a shield, right? It just has to have some sort of AP. But now to get those other effects, you may not necessarily have to rest that unit, and that unit now becomes an attack into shields potentially. The ways to deck build ZAFT in GD03, I feel like if you're playing the majority of the ZAFT units, you need the 4 copies of Riley Crusade, 4 copies of Atherin, and then potentially 2 or 3 of either Isaac or Dirka. I wouldn't include as many copies of the Providence, as the likelihood of reaching level 7 healthy isn't the greatest. But again, this is I still haven't really tested that out, because Riley Crusade can just keep getting you bases, albeit you have to take a shield, but if you're playing an aggro matchup, it's still taking multiple units or swings to get rid of some bases. And then also the Gamal to activate the breach is a lot easier now. So it's not just your Aegis MA mode or your dual Gundam that have breach. There's there's potentially other units like your Legao, or even the other Assault Shroud that can attack active units when it has 5 or more AP breach. I would also consider mixing in another color, potentially I think still white, because of the Kira being +2 AP, and then also minusing 2 AP when you're attacking something helps keep some of these other units along healthier for more than one turn potentially. And then also including blockers to kind of, if you do want to play Providence, to kind of help stay around to level 7. And then also, the Justice Gundam could be an inclusion in that, because it's easier for you to stick around long in the late game, or potentially even the new LR Freedom Gundam, which forces your units to kind of deal with that unit before they can deal damage to shields. Albeit, this is a note here that breach isn't necessarily battle damage, so breach damage would still go through. Um, you know, and having another unit to deal with on the board that's a bigger threat also reduces what people consider a threat on your dual Gundam or your Legaos, when they say, oh, they need that 5 or more AP to even do anything interesting. I might as well take care of this Freedom Gundam that's rested, that's saving their shields, or this Justice Gundam that's going to potentially just keep getting 2-for-1 swings every single turn. Now, my outlook for ZAFT is actually very, very high. We definitely got some good support cards in GD03 that kind of help the playability and functionality of the deck. And then additionally, STO9 is Destiny Ignition, which is the first larger starter deck. What that means is, this deck will bring the 50 cards, and then it'll bring an extra 22 cards, kind of like a sideboard, that you can kind of swap out cards in that deck to kind of help. And, again, that's based off Gundam Seed Destiny, which also includes ZAFT. So I feel like we're going to get more of the ZAFT Z Destiny pilots, the units. I hope that they're still red. They should still be red. And then also, potentially keep on with this, you needing 5 or more AP effects, and potentially stronger effects too, or more support units, or more, units that have effects that just give multiple plus APs around without needing a pilot or stuff like that, to kind of help this deck kind of really get going. But I think in GD03, it's in a good spot. I wouldn't say it's meta per se, because a lot of the colors got some really good things, and but I think it's now playable. It's you can actually compete with it. It's not necessarily treated as like a wonky side fun deck that you take to logos and stuff like that. I think if you're able to maximize the potential, and efficiently get the ratios right, and the pilots right, and the units right, I think this could help you win locals, or top a new type challenge to get top 4 and get a pilot card and stuff like that. So very interested on the outlook of ZAFT, and this is probably be my main deck for GD03, just given this is my favorite series, and it's what I first started out with in the Gundam card game, but kind of had to switch over to red white to kind of be more competitive. But yeah, this is definitely the first thing I'm turning to in GD03, and hopefully I like it, and hopefully STO9 comes out and makes it even better and stuff like that. So if you enjoy the video, please consider liking and subscribing for more content like this. I kind of like to think about the overall archetypes, and how ways certain decks can work and stuff like that. And with GD03 coming out, that's been more invigorated, because I feel like GD02 didn't really add enough support, and it was still kind of the same decks running around, the blocker meta, the wing meta, the blue green, which is turned into blue red aggro, just the aggro archetype. But I think now finally in GD03, they're starting to really open the floodgates and open the doors to more ways to play the game besides just the blocker, wing, aggro. So excited for more things to come here, and stay a lookout for more additional videos on GD03. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.